the response, the massive response. So far, Susie, we haven't heard much commotion. Nothing what sounds like any shots, but you can hear the helicopters and you can see them. They are overhead right now. They have their spotlights flashing down. And at this point, we are working to just get more information on what is happening. Of course, we will keep you updated, but so far, we're just seeing, you know, the response massive, and we're seeing several officers gearing up now in tactical gear.
Okay, that's Leslie Marin on the ground of this breaking news. The 3 officers shot. Suspect barricaded in some sort of garage in Lincoln Heights at Mission and North Broadway. As we continue to follow this citywide tactical alert following the shooting of 3 police officers, we do not know the extent of their injuries. They have been taken to a hospital. The suspect is holed up in a garage. We understand this is a massive, massive scene. Susan, we saw that from the air. It looked like 3 or 4 city blocks.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Of course, every street occupied by police, and you would expect that, of course, with a citywide tactical alert.
Yeah, let's go back upstairs now to Desmond Shaw live in SkyCal. Desmond, have you seen any movement in the alleyway that you were pointing at just now?
No movement there. We're just trying to get a good shot. It's kind of difficult because of these trees and these power lines here. Sure. Obviously, LAPD, they have their helicopter right overhead, so we have to give them a little bit of space, obviously, for their official activities. But you can see here how they really have all of the bases covered around this property, and they seem to be pretty confident that that suspect is holed up right here in this building. This is the one that they've been focusing on. But they have most of this area locked down very well, and you have eyes, quite a few eyes here from this side right here. Several officers now up on the roof here as well. So we'll come around a little bit later, and once we can go to the south and give you a better view of that building that they're showing you exactly. But have to imagine that the Bearcats are getting ramped up right now to come here from downtown Los Angeles, most likely from their headquarters there. I would expect to see at least 2, maybe even 3 of them. There's really doesn't get any more serious than a situation like this for LAPD, when not just 1, but now you're talking 3 of their officers being shot. So you're going to see an overwhelming amount of force used in relation to this, however they decide to proceed forward with this.
Yeah, of course, that would be the case, and we do expect SWAT to be en route, and
Sandy,
we'll, of course, bring that to you live here on KCAL News as we continue to break in on this programming here to bring you the very latest of 3 officers shot, suspect barricaded. We understand that person is inside of a garage. And Susie, we've reported on a lot of standoff situations.
What kind of weapon he has?
And sometimes they don't know exactly where that suspect is within that dwelling.
Sure.
Hope you guys are doing well. Just popping on, to see what's going on. I was getting all these notifications on Twitter about this shooting of 3 officers in California. 3 officers shot with a barricade situation now. SWAT is on the way, and they're saying that the suspect is in the garage. So I'm just trying to pull up what I can get in the meantime. I've kind of been MIA, kind of off, guys. It's still, I'm already moved in, but, still just getting things fixed and situated. So let's just see what's going on
information
here.
Into
Rachel, thank you so much for the
Mike
gifts.
Rogers for that update. Mike?
Yeah, Susie and Jeff. So I'm kind of going back and playing through all of this.
Is live.
And I can tell you, it looks like the Metropolitan Division, which again I believe is the K-9 officers, have been here or arrived here just before 4:30. So they've been here for a significant amount of time. And what we'll see when these K-9 officers show up is they're doing basically a grid search of this area. So if you've got this whole block, they're looking for somebody, then they'll use those K-9s to try to find that person. So, I was listening in on them around 4:30 this afternoon. They met up at that public storage, which is where the command post has been the entire time. That's where Desmond was showing us where all those officers were kind of staging and getting ready. But that's initially where the Metropolitan Division met up around 4:30 this afternoon to then conduct whatever operation was going on here. So still, again, waiting to figure out, did a radio call bring them here? Was this a warrant? I kind of tend to believe that if it was a warrant, we may have seen either SWAT out here or some kind of different operation. K-9 being here leads me to believe that this was a suspect search.
So I have a couple questions for you, Mike. First of all would be the timeline. Let's talk about that real quick. You had mentioned 4:30. I would assume that is not necessarily when the shooting occurred, but when the operation began.
Right, yeah, and I should be clear on that. Yeah, 4:30 is when K-9 arrived here, or Metropolitan Division arrived here to deal with this. The shooting happened just after 6:30, right around the 6:40 area is when the shots were fired. So they had been here for a significant amount of time, presumably conducting this search that they were there for to begin with, and then around 6:35, 6:40 is when the shots were fired.
And the follow-up would be a number, I know one of this division of LAPD has the canines. Could one of those injured officers be an actual canine? Do they report it that way?
No, we don't definitively know that for sure. We know that they requested 3 ambulances for 3 officers who were down.
3 officers, not a canine officer.
Yeah, exactly. So they requested, and again, we don't know definitively that they went in an ambulance. We know we're just down the street from County USC. It's very possible the officers took them themselves to the hospital. We see that happen all the time. But we did hear them request, an airship got overhead and said, I need 3 RAs, rescue ambulances is what they call those RAs. We need 3 RAs for 3 officers down. One of them was pinned on a sidewalk, and they were trying to rescue that officer.
I asked that because, those canines are usually the first ones in. They do get shot in the line of duty. We've done lots of stories on canines getting shot, and usually they are first there to interact with those suspects in a dangerous situation. But it appears that there are 3 human officers of LAPD.
And speaking to that, and speaking to what Mike was just talking about,
because they consider the dogs as
this, the hospital that they were probably likely taken to was County USC, which is less than a mile away. Desmond, I wonder if you could possibly show us, maybe in the distance even, where County USC is, just in the direction of where you are, and then, if you could possibly see a huge police presence there.
If you guys could help me out too with the likes, please, I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Towards the south and down over in this area. Here, the sprawling campus, here the old County General Hospital, and then right in front of that, to the south of it, is the newer campus where the officers have been taken to the emergency room there. That's on the south side of that complex, we know, because we have gone to show this exact story before, where officers have been had to be transported to that hospital. So that is definitely where they are headed right now, or rather, they're long since there, I should say. In fact, they were probably able to get there in less than 5 minutes. They could go down Mission Road, which is the major street you see right there, and then when an officer is shot, they'll have another officer assist and run basically traffic breaks. They'll go and shut down the intersection so that they can get them there as expeditiously as possible. So that was almost certainly what happened earlier when those officers were transported. So, that's the only positive right now in all of this, is that they didn't have a very long distance to go at all. Probably made it from...
And Chase Alerts here tweeted out saying that K9 units arrived around 4:30 p.m. for an original call. Shooting happened around 6:40 p.m. SWAT rolling now, 3 officers transported.
It's in Lincoln Heights, and this is going to be the Mission and North Broadway area.
Mike Rogers at the desk with an update now for us. Mike?
Right, so I just was listening to some more radio traffic from earlier in the day. Hollenbeck officers put themselves what they call Code 6, which is out for investigation in this area around 4 p.m. And they determined they located what's called a Code 6 Charles suspect, and that's a suspect with a felony want. We don't know what that felony is for, but it sounds like officers recognized this person as somebody who they may be known to them, or has some sort of warrant, but they called him a Code 6 Charles suspect, which is a person that is wanted for some type of felony. He ran from them. They set up a perimeter, and then it sounds like K9 was then brought in to search for this suspect within that perimeter. So that, again, who knows if somebody called 911 seeing him, if he committed a crime today, or if officers, in the area spotted him. But they referred to him as a male who was a Code 6 Charles suspect, again, wanted for a felony. They tried to, detain him. He ran from them, and then they set up this perimeter and brought K9 in. So sounds like that's how we got to where we are initially today.
Anything more about when those shots were fired, in that timeline that you're talking about?
Yeah, no, well, around 6:35 to 6:40 is when they put out what's called an officer needs help call, which is, the most significant radio call for help that LAPD has.
So about 2 hours later.
Right, so about 2 hours later. And so, in theory, they were conducting their search of this person, and then, obviously something happened and shots were fired. But, and to be clear, we also have not heard if they fired back at him. So, we're waiting, to see if that plays out as well, if any shots were returned.
You know, it just goes to show the dangerous job of these police officers out on the street, and they come across somebody as a felony warrant, suspect, somebody that they just came across, and then they, recognized him or whatever the situation.
Diggs was saying that River was out there, or he's out there. The officers pushed him out of the area, made their taped off crime scene really big, and wouldn't allow him to take his car. Damn. So he's stuck there for now. Who knows how long? Damn. Sweet Baya, thank you so much for the bits on Twitch. Thank you for the kindness. Vouchy5, thank you for becoming a member. Bianca, thank you for the super chat. Says hit the like button, please, always, and thank you. Warfire, thanks for becoming a member. Mizo, thank you for the super chat. Says I wonder what the backstory is. It's not really too much. I think this was a wanted guy, I guess. Amanda, thanks for the super chat. Housewarming gift. Oh, thanks for always entertaining us. Yeah, no problem. We will get back into the swing soon. I don't know when, but soon.
Morning that these officers leave their homes and go to the workplace and do their jobs. I mean, this is all a part of their job, but certainly as the phone call, you definitely don't want to get before your officer returns home. So definitely want to feel for those families tonight who are probably being called to the hospital right now because of these officers that were taken to County USC, we believe, and we don't know their conditions.
That's right, and that's scary in and of itself, because we know that 3 officers were shot. They were taken via ambulance to a local hospital. We do not know their conditions, but obviously the response here shows just how serious the police department is taking this. There's a citywide tactical alert going on right now, which means all the officers are in this area. You see the large response by police as a result of 3 officers shot. The suspect, we understand, is barricaded in a garage. It appears a storage facility, a garage of some sort in Lincoln Heights at Mission and North Broadway.
What's up, everybody? What's up,
Jeff? Let's go back up to Sky Cal and Desmond Shaw with pretty much just the lay of the land, Des.
Yeah, that's right. Here, I put the map tracker up for you. See the streets that we're talking about, Broadway and Prince. It's a couple of homes south on Prince Street where the shots, we believe, took place at this building right here. Now that we've come to the other side, you see the officers who have been standing here now for quite some time, obviously extremely tense, knowing that somewhere right in this area is an armed suspect that's already shot 3 of their colleagues. And obviously emotions very high as well. And this is, what's going to make this situation so tough for officers, is having to keep all of that in check and almost, waiting until the SWAT team comes here. And, I got to tell you, it's not like in the movies where the SWAT team arrives and then they just get out guns blazing and go flying into a home. It's nothing like that at all. These end up turning into multi-hour situations where they form a very intricate plan. Sometimes they want to actually even acquire the blueprints of a dwelling that they're looking about, and they want to know about ingresses and egresses, if there's any kind of air conditioning vents. They're down to every single detail before they go inside. Obviously, it's going to take some time for them to get over here with whatever supplemental equipment that they want to bring on those as well.
I don't know which building is it exactly.
I'm sure the call went out quite some time, but you would think that you expect them to get here very quickly, but it can still take quite some time for us to see those Bearcats make it to the scene, regardless of the severity of this situation. But they seem to be, pretty confident that this is where the suspect is, somewhere in this building. It looks to be the garage on the bottom level, maybe a carport, and then a couple of dwellings on the second floor there. They actually have 2 helicopters overhead, one that's really been focused on this, and then another one that's kind of been on the perimeter with a separate spotlight looking at different areas. Not sure why that is. Obviously, LAPD is very focused on this. We haven't been able to get a hold of them and ask them any questions on the radio.
And Mike, you have an update for us.
Yeah, Desmond alluded to it. I did just hang up with an officer over at the Metropolitan Division, their desk. They do have SWAT rolling to this. SWAT's already on their way. They're over at 2710 West Temple Street, which is kind of in, Westlake District, Rampart Village area. So just a quick Google Maps, about 20 minutes drive time from there to here. Obviously, they'll be able to go lights and sirens. And all of that. Sorry, I was just listening to some of the traffic there. But yeah, the SWAT team is on their way right now.
Yeah, and that's typical of what's going on.
I thought SWAT was already there. They're saying, too, is that there's lots of scanner traffic on tactical movement and perimeter positions. We will not be posting that info. Still lots of radio chatter, but nothing shareable. So they're not sharing the radio content, I guess, for the safety, I guess, of the police officers.
This area. Officers are on the lookout right now. They do have one area where they do believe the suspect is holed up, but just in case, I'm sure that they are going door to door and just alerting residents about what's happening right here, right now. They're also going to hold the perimeter, which they have been doing, obviously. They're going to set up a perimeter around this area, as we've been seeing for blocks with the amount of response that we're seeing with the officers here. And as you can see, this building in this alleyway here is what we're focusing on, as Desmond is showing us right now, and that's where officers are focusing their attention. So we believe that the suspect is holed up inside this building somewhere.
Yeah, that's going to be the center part of your screen there. That's where we believe, as Susie mentioned, the suspect is holed up. I don't really see the garage per se that they're talking about, or the storage unit, but as we get a closer look there, you could see that that might be maybe a garage door. As we take a closer look, this is in Lincoln Heights, and this is what is breaking at this point in time here on KCAL News at 7:27 is your time. LAPD is on citywide tactical alert after 3 officers with LAPD were reportedly shot in Lincoln Heights, and we understand that those 3 officers have been taken to a hospital. We do not know the extent of their injuries, and the suspect, we do not know his condition or her condition, but they are holed up inside of that garage and that perimeter, as you mentioned, Susie. Pretty big perimeter, a number of city blocks here. And if you take a look on Google Maps, which I'm doing here, you can see the lay of the land here is basically there's that storage unit. So there's a little bit of commercial along Mission Road. There's a little bit of
Yeah, I haven't heard of any word on the officers' conditions, just that the building, I guess the hospital was close by. So, and SWAT's on the way. The guy's barricaded. K9 units arrived around 4:30 p.m. for another call, an original call. And then the shooting happened at 6:40 p.m., which is their time. So Eastern, 7:40, 8:40, 9:40 p.m., almost an hour ago. And SWAT is on the way
to this location, or at around 4:30 this afternoon. The officers recognized a suspect, the suspect that we're talking about, with a felony warrant. And Mike, you were talking about how the one officer was actually trapped at some point or pinned down.
Yeah, and I was listening to that. I was at Prince and Broadway, which is just one block, I believe, to the west of where Broadway and Mission is. And they were down on a sidewalk there. And the airship, the helicopter, oh yeah, Desmond's showing it to us right there on the top of the screen. The helicopter was coordinating getting that officer rescued and getting him out of the line of fire. He was in what they call the hot zone, where the shots were being fired. So luckily they were able to do that and get all 3 of those people to the hospital. Again, we don't know their condition at the moment. And to your point about evacuating the neighbors and stuff, the only potential good news about this, and look, I can't see who this is. Are those officers, Des, or are those? Yeah, those are officers. The only good news about this operation, happening at 4:30 is they probably had already made contact with residents in that area. If they were going to be doing a canine search, it's very likely that they had either removed people or at least told them to shelter kind of in place while they were conducting this operation. So, since it had been going on for 2 hours, there's a very likely chance that those residents had already been notified of the police activity that was going to be going on in the neighborhood. So, and does it look like, were those the SWAT guys that were walking down the street right there?
It does look like it, but as I widen out, let's see if they maybe have one of the Bearcats way back here, closer to the
we got a Bearcat?
to Broadway and Mission. This would be back near their command post. This is
roll
where
that
they were
shit
going
right
to
into the
be
garage.
Having most
That's
of
what
their
they do,
activity
just ram that shit
back
in there.
away at a safe distance. I don't see any of the Bearcats are arriving yet at this point. I just saw a bunch of those officers coming running from this area down the street. And Mike was mentioning Broadway and Prince, and if that was the hot zone, then it may actually be one of these homes more on the north side of the screen where they're focusing a lot of their attention now. Maybe they just have the officers here to kind of have everything covered. But, we're not sure which one of these dwellings where we believe that the suspect is, but you can see there's quite a few. These are all individual units, it looks like, right here. And then this is at least another 1 or 2 units as well. So we'll just have to kind of see where they focus their activity, and a lot of times when they bring the Bearcat to the scene, they'll get them right up there, kind of almost in the face of the suspect. Obviously, those vehicles totally bulletproof, so that will give us a better indication too of where we believe the suspect is more definitively.
If you could, Des, pan back over to where you think the suspect is, because it's quite a narrow alley, if I recall, and those large Bearcats, that's where the LAPD cruiser is sitting there. We believe that that is the area. Tell us a little bit about the makeup of that. It almost doesn't look like a street, but more like an alley. What do you think?
Yeah, it definitely looks like an alley here for a couple of these properties to get into and out of, to access the yard, like for this property right here. So that's, definitely not a street, just a little alleyway right there. This building, I can't tell if it's 1 or 2 units, and then parking on the ground floor. That's where we've seen that spotlight there the entire time. And then I was just kind of going based on the medical waste, which is out of this shot right here, but where they may have been attending to one of the 3 officers as well. But then, Mike was saying if they believe that one of the other officers was right here in this area, then, maybe the other 2 fled over here closer to the alley. So it's just kind of, a little bit murky at this point to exactly where we think the suspect is.
All right, we want to bring back our Leslie Marin, who's live there on the ground in Lincoln Heights. Leslie, you have moved positions actually since the last time we came to you live. Show us what you're seeing now.
Susie, we actually tried to move positions. We tried to get closer to where we believe this barricade is happening, but I can tell you that every street within the perimeter of this area is blocked down by LAPD right now. They will not let you go pretty much anywhere else. So we came back to our location, and take a look. You can see every couple minutes we're still seeing unmarked cars, LAPD vehicles, all making their way down here. In fact, we spoke to an officer when we tried to go through one of their barriers, who told us it is just not possible. We have cops from all over the city coming down to this location right now. Take a look. What you're looking at right now is a perimeter here on Mission. That light right there is Broadway. There are ambulances here. There are fire trucks here, and you see plenty of LAPD vehicles. We have seen several police officers in tactical gear walking around. You can see in the area we're standing here, there is not much commotion. I believe we're pretty far from the location where all of this is happening, but you can see that the ambulances are staged here. One thing I'll tell you, since we got here, we haven't seen any ambulances leave. It seems like maybe they're just staged just in case at this point. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of crews here. We're seeing a lot of police officers in this area. We're hearing the helicopters overhead shining their spotlight down, and police officers just keep coming to this direction. I will tell you, around this area, LAPD, as I said, has completely locked it down. People cannot walk around.
So I saw somebody said in the chat, Knowledge is Power LA says Riverside Accountability Channel on the ground live streaming. So I hear that those guys, they keep getting pushed back. The police officers have set like this really large perimeter. Oh, let's see. Hold on. Is this?
Direction. We saw them head over here about 20 minutes ago when we were on our way as well. Unknown where this crew is now headed. But this is a situation here on Mission, right next to Broadway. Of course, once we get more information, we will bring it to you, but it is a chaotic scene down here as more LAPD officers continue to make their way in this direction. Okay,
Leslie, make sure that you let us know when that press conference, if it occurs.
Oh, they're doing a presser?
And we'll bring it to you live here on KCAL News. Just to tell you a little bit about where this is, we understand North Broadway is going to be the north perimeter, if you will. Prince Street would be to the west, Duke Street to the south, and then North Mission Road. And it appears that that alley where the suspect is holed up is kind of right in the middle of there between Broadway and Duke Street. Again, so just in broad terms, it's going to be Broadway and Mission Road. Stay clear of that area. Obviously, a large police presence. We're under a citywide tactical alert live LAPD, a very large response after 3 police officers have been shot. We understand that they were taken to a hospital. We do not know the extent of their injuries, and the suspect is currently barricaded. And Susie, it looks like police, with their posture right at this point in time, that they got him where they want him. They know he's not moving around. They're going to wait it out, and they're waiting for SWAT to arrive.
That's right. And as you were talking about, a citywide tactical alert issued by the LAPD tonight, meaning that officers cannot go EOW, or end of watch as they call it, and they're only responding to true life and death calls for services. There's nothing else associated with it, like a traffic stops or observation stops, as they might often have with these kind of situations. It looks like they are contained to this one area that we're talking about and looking for the suspect in this area. And as far as we know, we believe the suspect is holed up in the building that we were showing you earlier. We believe that that is where all the officers are focusing their attention right now. Mike, do you have an update for us?
I do. We're hearing from a source that one of the officers that was injured was a canine officer. So, you know, that's kind of likely what we were.
So is that 3+1 or 3?
No, 3. He is
one of the 3.
That person
Okay.
is one of the 3.
Okay.
Which, you know, we kind of expected that, being that this was a canine operation, but that's what we're hearing right now. We don't, again, know the condition of that person. I also want to point out, you know, what Desmond is likely seeing up there as well. They do have 2 helicopters, as he mentioned, and you know, one of the helicopters is doing a really tight orbit over, you know, the homes here where they believe this person is. And then you've got a second helicopter that's doing much wider orbits, coordinating everything that's going on, moving officers. I can, you know, hear him like putting people on perimeters and moving officers to different places. So you've got 2 helicopters up here being able to coordinate this, and leaving one of them to really focus their eyes on the home in question here, while the second helicopter is able to coordinate officer movements and stuff like that.
So let's go back to that just to make sure that we can clarify. 3 officers shot. You have a source and new information related to the 3 police officers victims in the shooting.
Correct. Yeah. So 3 officers in total shot. One of them, at least one of them, and it, you know, it could be that all 3 of them end up being from K-9 Division, but at least one of them from LAPD's K-9 Division during this operation.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit more about how they were able to find this suspect, see this suspect. We understand he ran once police noticed him. Tell us a bit more about that.
Right, yeah, so Hollenbeck, this is an LAPD's Hollenbeck division. Hollenbeck patrol officers were in the area. You know, I'm not entirely clear if they were called to the area. We see more units responding here. If they were called to the area, or if they were observant on patrol and noticed what they call a Code 6 Charles suspect, which is a person wanted for some type of felony. They tried to make contact with that person ran. Officers set up this perimeter. They requested the help of K-9 to locate this person. And then about 2 hours went by before the shots were fired. Now, it's still unclear if the K-9 officers actually found the suspect and there was a confrontation, or if the suspect just shot at them while they were searching. All of that is still to be determined. Sure. But you know, we do know that patrol officers spotted this person that they, you know, likely are aware of or know, and then set up a perimeter, requested K-9, and then we are where we're at now.
Yeah, what we do know for certain tonight is this person is armed and dangerous. 3 officers shot, 1 a K-9 officer, as we're confirming now. They're all 3 at the hospital tonight at County USC. Their conditions unknown. Our hearts certainly go out to their families tonight as they're waiting for word. I'm certain of how their loved ones are doing. The good news tonight, the hospital is very close. It's less than a mile away, as Desmond was referring to, and we're waiting for SWAT to arrive here on scene. Looks like we do have some responding officers. They grow by the minute, actually, as we've been watching. But we know that the LAPD is on a citywide tactical alert tonight, so no one is end of watch as far as this alert is out. And I'm sure as soon as this situation wraps up, that will come to an end as well.
As we take a look at the resources, Susie, you see fire trucks, you see ambulances, you see obviously police cars. This is all a response of a citywide tactical alert after 3 officers were shot. The suspect is barricaded. Let's go to Desmond Shaw. Des, we're looking for those more resources. I know you're really got a good eye out for those Bearcats. That would show that they might be ready to do something. Any sight of any of
I hope
SWAT
they bring the
vehicles?
Bearcats. It should.
No, I just noticed this large truck coming in right here, though. This is, haven't seen.
All blacked out.
It's just like a. This may be with the SWAT department. Haven't seen one of these kind of more normal-looking pickup trucks. Usually we see, you know, the large armored vehicles coming in, but
was that armored pickup?
This being what it is, you're going to see, you know, all sorts of different vehicles responding. Here comes, looks like some more possibly some more high-ranking LAPD officials here. Still not seeing.
You see those executive units sometimes. That might actually be the chief or something like that.
Right.
It's usually higher up.
And these SWAT guys also travel in those. They're not, they come from, if they're off shift or wherever they are, they take those vehicles home. So a lot of these unmarked vehicles could also be the SWAT officers responding, and then they'll have an officer or two go back to Metropolitan Division and bring in, all of their tools, their SWAT truck, the armored vehicles, their radio trucks, all of that stuff could come in. But it's very, very, very possible that these unmarked vehicles are SWAT officers that are starting to show up here.
And obviously there's just such a large response because 3 officers have been shot. Des, I know that you've been covering LA and the conditions here for officers for a number of years. You've seen big responses before, but anytime a police officer is shot, that's a big response. But tonight we have 3 officers shot, and obviously that has brought an even bigger response.
Yeah, absolutely. It turns into an all hands on deck type situation. And so even as large of a response as we're seeing, we're expecting it to continue to grow at this point. Just a totally overwhelming amount of force that will eventually be used to apprehend the suspect in all of this. And I've just noticed within the last few minutes now, you've been seeing a lot of officers, clad here with helmets and lethal force out here. Now they have this area surrounded as well, and this is closer to where Mike was saying that one officer had been shot. So now you can see how they have both sides of Broadway and Prince Street covered both on the north and south ends, because at first we were thinking that the suspect was probably in this building right here. But now I'm starting to think that it may be that they're just have that alleyway covered, and that the suspect may actually be in one of these buildings underneath this tree right here.
Should be blurry.
We'll do another orbit to give you a kind of a picture of what it looks like on the other side of that tree. You don't really have any perfect angle, unfortunately, to show you everything going on right here. But here is the command center, and we're probably close to definitely more than 50 LAPD cruisers and officers that have responded to this so far, and actually maybe be closer to 100 officers now. So this is one of
blow his ass up, blow his ass out of there. I don't know if there's any other civilians in that building, but if they do bring that bear cam, maybe they could just pull right up on that shit, get a visual.
Because they don't know what kind of state of mind that this person is in. They were able to shoot at 3 officers today, and their conditions are unknown right now. So, it's a situation of, get this person who is armed and dangerous out of this neighborhood, right, Mike?
Right, and one thing that I was noticing in Desmond's shot on top of the police cars over there where the command post is, they had big papers laid out, and it's likely maps or schematics for the building or blueprints or things where they can really kind of get an idea of the layout of the area that they're looking for in this person. Sorry, I'm just listening to the airship still do some more coordination with these officers. They are requesting even, believe it or not, even more officers to the location to handle the perimeter. They've got an interior perimeter and then a more outer perimeter. So they do believe they do have the suspect contained in the inner perimeter right now. And because this was an operation with K9 before, they'd already had a perimeter set up before these shots were even fired. So in theory, he wouldn't have had really anywhere to get out even to begin with before he shot at the police.
So on the left-hand part of your screen is going to be the live picture from this scene here of 3 officers shot. On the right is going to be video that we've been showing you throughout the evening here as we broke in on KCAL News. And one of those shots was a pretty large staging area. I probably counted as the camera was sweeping from right to left, 40 officers standing there in a staging area, and that's not to consider every single officer in every single one of those cruisers. So you really don't want to guess and prognosticate how many officers are on scene, but we could safely say dozens for sure.
Absolutely. And of course, a big concern for the neighborhood that surrounds this operation right now, that's in the neighborhood where this is happening right now. We had our Leslie Marin there on the ground showing us just what's happening there. I wonder if we can bring her back in just for an update. Leslie, are you with us?
Yeah, Susie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Leslie, I wanted to ask you if you've been able to speak with any residents since the last time we spoke with you, and if you haven't been able to, have you seen residents in their homes, at least inside their homes, wondering what's going on, maybe peeking out the window?
I can show you the location we're at right now because this is a pretty bare location. There is an industrial building just to this side of me, and it doesn't seem like that location is open. On the other side, though, Robert, if you want to pan this way, just up this hill, we actually saw them flash one of their spotlights down on this hill. There's homes up there, and then over here, there are a few apartments. This gives you an idea of just how far back we are. Actually, I can see the public storage facility we were talking about earlier. I believe we're just a street away from Prince Street, which Desmond was talking about. But we're not able to see any residents just yet. I could tell you this entire location all the way down to Lincoln Park was completely shut down. Take a look. You can see more LAPD officers making their way over here. I know Desmond and Mike both talking about just the massive response that we're seeing. I can completely attest to that because we are seeing dozens and dozens of patrol cars, dozens of officers, dozens of undercover officers continuing to head this way. And
all right, so let me get some of the super chats. I guess this guy's going to be barricaded for a while. They have how many officers? Over 100 already to set out there. This guy shot 3 people already. One of those people is a K-9 officer, and they're already taken to the hospital. We don't know their condition. And the shooting happened at 6:40 p.m. Cali time, which is 9:40 p.m. Eastern. And SWAT's on the way. They're surrounding this place. Alana, thank you so much for the 3-month membership. She says, I hope you and Maddie are enjoying the new place. Did Maddie get to pick out the decorations for her room? Congratulations again. Thank you. Thank you so much. Somewhat. There's still a lot more to do in the room. I just finished the dresser today. So
walking through parts of near Lincoln Park, we did see many officers, people just walking the streets. They were telling them they had to go the other direction. They were checking their IDs just to make sure they lived in that area. So this is pretty much shut down this entire neighborhood right now, and police are just asking people to be patient, cooperate with them. You can see behind me again, just showing this massive scene. We did see fire trucks pull out of here. We're seeing at least one ambulance still on standby near this location.
You hear that?
Okay, we are hearing the helicopter is saying all residents at Mission and Broadway, lock your doors, stay inside. This is a very dangerous situation. That's the first time we heard that loudspeaker go off since we got here about 20-30 minutes ago. So you can tell this is a very active situation. Again, telling the residents in the Mission and Broadway area to lock your doors, stay in your homes as police continue to search for these suspects.
Okay.
Susie, Jeff, that just really paints the picture of how serious and dangerous this situation is.
Yeah,
and take a look, you guys. You can see SWAT coming in right now.
There we
I
go.
wonder if we can bring
Their
that picture
vehicles now
full.
coming
Bring
in.
in Leslie's picture full here. I'd like to be able to see that.
You can see.
There we go.
You had those 2 LAPD rescue vehicles making their way in. Those are the first 2 we've seen that come down to this area. Again, we are at Mission. The intersection you see over there, that is Broadway, near that public storage we were talking about earlier. And as you guys just heard, the overhead speaker telling people just lock your doors, stay inside.
And I haven't heard at all yet them say what type of weapon the suspect is using.
Of the situation of 3 officers shot, a suspect barricaded in Lincoln Heights. And you saw there in Leslie Marin's live shot the audio, the public address announcer, if you will, from inside of that law enforcement helicopter telling people in this area to lock their doors, stay inside after 3 officers were shot. Suspect is barricaded in the Lincoln Heights area of Mission and North Broadway. A very large response by LAPD as they have issued a citywide tactical.
Dick says 4 helicopters out there. Mary L12, thank you so much for the super chat. Says was having sled withdrawal. Thanks, Mo. I know. Silence, thank you so much for the super chat. Love you. Crystal, thank you for the super chat. Sweet Bio, thank you for the bits on Twitch. Krista, thank you for the super chat. Stephanie, thank you for the super chat. Says, hey Mel, I feel like I spent the day with you. LOL, it was great. Lots of new news. Oh, you must have been on Twitch with us earlier.
3 officers were shot earlier. Their conditions unknown at the hospital tonight, as far as we know. Mike, do you have an update for us?
No, we're just, excuse me, we're going back and looking at some other things. We've asked LAC Medical Center to give us some information on these officers. And actually, you know, while we have Leslie's
thing is
picture
that?
there, I'd like to see if Desmond can swing his
Like a
camera
garbage truck
over
or
to the ER over there at the hospital, just to see, you know, lots of times we'll start to see large contingencies of police officers show up at the hospital. So Des, I don't know if you've got me, if you can swing over to County USC really quick. I know you're on that kind of side of this situation, and so we can get a kind of a look at what's going on over at the hospital.
SF investigates. What's up, man? I heard about Jared.
Unfortunately, because of where we're at, we would have to probably go over to the hospital to see very much activity. I see a couple of, I see a unit speeding away from the hospital right there. I believe their emergency room, though, is on the south side of the southern building. So did see a few, looks like actually there you see one unit speeding towards the hospital right there. So almost certainly we have a lot of officers waiting outside of the emergency area, as we often see whenever officers are shot and transported to the hospital. So that's going to be the scene there that we may go investigate later at some point. But I did want to zoom in here on these SWAT vehicles, because the two that came in are awfully unique. I don't know that I've ever seen either of these Bearcats. This one right here that looks like it's probably capable of smashing through a building with whatever it has there on the front. And then there was another one as well that had a big overhang. This one right here.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't believe I've ever seen this armored vehicle on scene before.
If you're just joining us here on KCAL News, an early edition of KCAL News at 8, alongside Jeff Vaughn and Mike Rogers at the desk, Desmond Shaw live in SkyCal. Good evening, everyone. I'm Susie Suh. We've been watching this breaking news unfold in Lincoln Heights. 3 officers shot when they were chasing a suspect with a felony warrant. We do believe that at some point during some sort of operation, we don't know exactly what kind of operation that was, that officers arrived for at 4:30 this afternoon in this area. They were shot at some point.
That's a weird ass looking vehicle. Anybody? A food truck?
What happened exactly, how that all transpired? Were the officers returning fire at some point? We don't know still. All the details are very fluid at this point. But we do know that just moments ago in that area, officers were over the loudspeakers saying for residents to lock their doors and stay inside their homes, as obviously they're dealing with a dangerous suspect right now who is armed and willing to shoot at officers.
We understand that suspect has been isolated in a garage or some sort of storage unit of some sort in that area. So we don't think that they were telling people necessarily. Obviously, there's a lot of safety concerns here.
Oh, yeah, look, they're using it.
On the ground was saying that a number of people were starting to come out of their homes to see what was going on. And that's kind of human nature, of course, to do that. But it is a very dangerous situation. And I would like to think that maybe that's why they were telling them to get inside, lock their doors, stay inside, because of what is happened and has happened with 3 officers being shot. I'd like to get some response from Des, if you don't mind, up in SkyCal. Des, you know, you've followed these over the years. You notice the posture of these officers. Obviously, the suspect has a gun. He shot 3 officers, so there is a weapon with him. Oftentimes, you talk about, you know, they go break into that scene and that suspect is taking his own life. You know, is there a situation where it appears that that's not the case? Are they calm? Are they collected? Is there a little bit of frantic activity going on? Tell us a little bit about that.
I would say they're still in a pretty tense mode right now. Definitely still on high alert. I'm thinking of a situation where exactly what you're mentioning, where they had responded to a barricade situation and then they heard a shot fired, and it continued to be a standoff for 6 hours, and it had turned out at the end of that standoff, after they went in, that the suspect did indeed take their own life.
Thank you so much.
That is certainly a possibility in this. Totally conjecture.
Thank you for gifting that.
At this point. We do know that after the officers had gotten out, after all 3 had been extricated and taken to the hospital, that there were still shots apparently being fired from that suspect. So it's unclear where those shots were directed. I mean, I do see them now that they have the big armored vehicle back here that that they can take cover behind. They seem to be a bit more relaxed at this point. And you see it almost like it has this big platform on top, which I'm guessing will probably be used to get some of these SWAT officers into a second story.
Oh, is that what that is?
I've never seen one of those vehicles with that sort of equipment respond before. And then the other one here, we'll have to go find where the other one disappeared to. Might just be behind these trees, but had what almost looked like a huge battering ram on the front, which could just, probably go right into a garage. So obviously bringing out all of the heavy machinery for the situation, but just because they're here now doesn't mean that this is going to be resolved anytime soon.
No. And as we're talking about, officers saw the suspect who they were, they knew that this person, the suspect who shot at them, had a felony warrant out, and that's when the chase started after the suspect. And during that operation, during the operation of some sort that they arrived here on scene 4 in the East LA area, that is when the shots were fired. So obviously right now, still a very delicate operation. They're not going in there with guns blazing as we often see in movies or what you might think. This is a very, very planned out, methodical operation that's happening tonight. As you can see, the tons of response that we're seeing between LAPD officers, the fire department, ambulances, various units out there, just to make sure, just in case, because you don't know what's going to happen. This is still a very active scene. As soon as officers approach this person, get anywhere near them, what's going to happen? Yeah,
and this is a citywide tactical alert, so you obviously see the very large response. As we're coming up at the top of the hour here on KCAL News at 8 o'clock, this is continuing coverage. We're going to go into our regular programming and our news programming that starts here in just a few minutes. But we're in breaking coverage right now as we continue to follow the story of a shooting that occurred earlier tonight at around 6 o'clock, I believe. 4:30 was about the time that the officers started this, or saw the suspect rather, and then he ran from police. We don't know at what point in time that the shooting occurred, but it was certainly the suspect ran from officers. He was under some sort of felony warrant, if you will. They recognized the person. We don't know exactly how that came about, but 3 officers got shot. As a result of that, we do not know the extent of their injuries. The suspect is barricaded at this location in Lincoln Heights at Mission and North Broadway. And this is what you see as a response. I don't know the last time we've heard of 3 officers shot at the same incident. It's been a while. I just want to mention as we come up on the top of the hour, let's get to Mike Rogers. Mike, are you on the phone? If not, I just want to make sure that people understand this is KCAL News at 8 o'clock as we come in the top of the hour. And Mike Rogers at the desk, what do you have?
Yeah, so we've been following this. I just spoke with one of my colleagues on the desk who was actually able to speak with a resident who witnessed the aftermath of this. I don't believe he actually saw the shots being fired, but he did see the officers down, and he told my colleague that he watched as other officers pulled those 3 officers from the line of fire. So, Jeff, you mentioned that we don't typically see 3 officers kind of go down at the same time. And I think part of that is because generally officer shootings kind of happen on patrol calls when they're just responding. This is, a specialized unit that they travel together when they do these searches. They travel in, groups of officers all at the same time in the same direction. So, if this suspect just indiscriminately started firing at them, that's probably why, we saw 3 of them go down. But this viewer who is watching our coverage right now did say that he watched these 3 officers be dragged out by other officers.
Too,
so,
in case.
That is kind of what we were talking about, how they tried to get each other out of the line of fire.
And that was at the time of the shooting?
Correct, yeah. So
that would be a number of officers there then.
Right, so, and I should clarify, so LAPD K-9 division works slightly differently than other departments. Other departments have K-9 officers that are kind of part of their patrol.
Yeah.
LAPD K-9 division travels together. So they travel
like a platoon,
correct.
And this is under the LAPD's Metropolitan Division,
correct? Which also houses SWAT and some of their other specialty divisions. And the K-9 officers, they'll all drive together in a pack of 6, 7, or 8 vehicles, and they'll all go together to a scene. So, we get actually calls in the newsroom all the time of, oh my God, I just saw 8 cop cars going down the street, lights and sirens, and 9 times out of 10, what it is it's K-9 responding to a perimeter. And so they don't respond like normal patrol officers. They go together in a large group of them, large contingency of them, and then they'll conduct that search all together in the perimeter. So, that's why there were so many officers here at one point from K-9, because they all travel together to these calls.
For the initial operation.
Correct, correct, yes, Susie. The initial operation when they spotted this person and then requested put up a perimeter and then requested K-9 to try to come find him around 4:30 this afternoon. So K-9 rolled together all together, and then they started that search, and then 2 hours into the search, unfortunately, is when the shots were fired and these officers were injured.
All right, let's go back upstairs now to Desmond Shaw live in SkyCal. Desmond, are you seeing any movement now? It's been about 10 minutes since SWAT arrived.
Hey, sorry.
Probably be in a lull unless something dramatic happens, like if the suspect got out and started running or firing shots again. We're probably going to be in a bit of a holding pattern for what could frankly be several hours, because now they're really going to, now that they're on scene, they're going to be getting a lay of the land. They're going to be running different scenarios, they're going to be thinking about, all the little nooks and crannies of this massive property. And, you can see here, this is what we're talking about. It's like 4, 6, 7, possibly 10 to 12 different dwellings. They have, officers focusing on the alley, but just as many officers focusing on the Broadway side here off of Prince Street as well. So there's a lot of I's to dot, a lot of T's to cross before they go, rushing in and making sure that they have all of the equipment for everything. It's frankly pretty rare to see. Once the Bearcats arrive, it's rare to see these situations last less than 2 or 3 hours. So barring any dramatic development with the suspect, that's what I would anticipate from this point.
Just want to mention tonight, we do have team coverage. Obviously, Mike Rogers is at the desk. We got Desmond Shaw up in SkyCal. I'm Jeff Vaughn alongside Susie Sa. We also have Leslie Marin, who's on the ground there. That's going to be the picture on your left. And also Tom Wade is at County USC, which is where those 3 injured officers were taken. Let's go to Tom with the very latest from that point of view. Tom.
And good evening to you, Jeff. I just spoke with an officer here on the scene. She is not authorized to speak with the media yet, but I can tell you some good news. She is saying right now it does appear that the officers involved in the shooting, that they should be okay. We don't have details on their conditions, but again, the good news is, from what I'm told by this officer here on the scene, that they all should survive. So we should obviously keep tabs on their condition, but certainly that is a tidbit that we are very pleased to hear. You can see kind of this is one of the bays here leading into the hospital where officers have been coming in the past few minutes. We obviously they're trying to get more information. We understand that they are going to relay that to us very soon. A number of officials here, top brass from the LAPD, have arrived here on the scene and are trying to gather as much as they can. Certainly this is a situation where everything's very fluid, and they're trying to get here and get that information as quickly as I can. But I can tell you just from the demeanor of the officers here, and having covered these awful situations before where officers or deputies are shot in the line of duty, that the demeanor here is definitely different in the sense that it feels very consistent with what the officer told me, which is that these officers should survive. Again, though, certainly we want to wait for the official word, and we want to wait for the exact conditions of these officers. But right now, kind of in a holding pattern as we wait to get more information. Jeff, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, Tom, thank you so much for that report. And Susie, that certainly is good news. We obviously cannot confirm that, but obviously our reporter on the ground, and Tom Waite, says those officers should be okay. What a sigh of relief. And also what we look at when a situation like that happens is the demeanor of the officers. And you've been at the scene. I've been a street reporter. You have been a general summit reporter as well.
So,
I don't know
if I heard him right. When he said the Bearcats show up, it lasts at least 2-3 hours, or it doesn't last more than 2-3 hours. Not sure what exactly I heard. M. Tice, thank you so much for gifting the memberships. Melissa, thank you for gifting those memberships. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kindness. The people that got the memberships, make sure you check out the front page of the channel. There's videos on there. It's been a while. I got to update some more videos. Drita, thank you for the 17-month membership. 17 months I'll be here. For 17 years. Thanks for what you do. Thank you. River, thanks for becoming a member. 8-foot tropical mud chicken, thanks for becoming a member. Amazing.
To survive, not to take away from their injuries, the fact that they are still injured and they were shot today on the job, but certainly that is good news to hear tonight, the fact that they are expected to
at least that's
survive.
good. We got some good news.
Well, this is breaking coverage here tonight.
Waiting for
officers
confirmation.
Shot. A suspect is barricaded. A very large response by LAPD. This is in Lincoln Heights. We do have SkyCal and Desmond Shaw, who's been on the scene from the very beginning as we broke into regular programming to bring you the very latest. Des, you're focusing here on
Melissa, thank you.
A number of cruisers. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, this is one of the 3 armored vehicles that they have here on the scene.
What else we got going on?
There's 3. We'll widen out and try to find all of them here. But this is the one that has like a huge battering ram on the front. And I was just focusing on them because there was a lot of activity around here. I saw a lot of pointing. Well, now they're moving. It looks like they're kind of primarily using this vehicle's bulletproof capabilities for cover. So they've just kind of been slowly moving it down the street, maybe kind of getting a good look.
No more than 2 to 3
in
hours.
front
Okay.
of them as that vehicle slowly creeps down the street. And then we'll see if we can see it from this angle, the other one that came
Melissa,
immediately
thank you.
towards the alley side, where we had initially seen most of the activity. And you see that huge platform that's kind of built into the roof and extends to the top.
So that platform
and,
thing.
a law enforcement friend of mine is telling me that is indeed used, that can be used to get officers into a second story, basically could be used like a step ladder.
Harley and
course,
Biggs
by having
sent me
that, it
some
looks like
images.
they lose the turret capabilities that the typical configuration of the
I guess they walk up
Bearcats that we
this shit?
typically see, although I believe
Let's show
that's
the other
what
one.
this one has right here. And it has, we'll get around to the other side. We'll come as we'll make our way over towards the west and show you. It has, looks like a huge battering ram. It almost kind of looks like a punching glove or something on the front that I would assume could just be used to go right into a building if they needed to. There was talk that the suspect was holed up in a garage, so this vehicle would be very capable of
Ram
just
that shit in there, just
plowing,
ram it.
right through the
Put
front
on
of
some
the building,
flashbangs or something.
if that's the tactic that they so choose.
Yeah, and for residents in the area, over the loudspeaker, an LAPD officer telling residents in the area this evening to lock doors and stay inside. But Mike, these officers arrived here on scene about 4:30 in the afternoon today, and they actually set up a perimeter already.
Right, and so the hope is that a lot of these residents were already kind of sheltering in place because of the increased police activity that was already going on there. And I wanted to point out one thing as we're looking at the equipment that SWAT's brought in. Desmond was showing us a little while ago a sprinter van, if you will. It's another vehicle that is used by the SWAT team, and they're going to likely start bringing in these resources. We saw, I think it was even just yesterday, they've got robots, they've got things that they can put into these situations where they don't have to put officers out there, especially when we're in a situation where this person has already allegedly shot 3 police officers. So if they can help putting any more people in there, they will, and they can use some of those tools like that robot that has a lot of really good capabilities to kind of maneuver around and do different things like that. They've got different devices, and there's I believe that's the van that I was referencing.
Oh, look at the robot
That I was just referencing. But they've got a lot of tools that they can use. We even saw one yesterday where it's just in the palm of his hand, and he kind of tosses it, and it's on 2 wheels, and it rolls in, and they can try to communicate with the suspect. So now that SWAT's here, they'll start to get all of that kind of really specialized, specific equipment out, like the robot that we're seeing here, to try to get it into places so they don't.
I wish you could see the camera on that thing too.
I think what we should definitely bring up is what Tom Waite reported just moments ago here on KCAL News, is that he spoke with an officer source while he was covering this story from County USC, where those 3 officers were taken, and that source said that the officers should be okay.
They should have like a self-destruct and that shit too, right? The robots just send it in there and blow it up.
Be put on this suspect, wanting to get him or her into custody after shooting on those 3 officers, after being holed up for at least about 3 hours.
Have some flashbangs on there,
sort of
concussion grenades
in the area of Lincoln Heights near Mission and North Broadway. It kind of, we were talking tonight about, Susie, K9 unit involved with this, K9's there. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the robot with the SWAT team. Remember just earlier this week, city council members looked at that
the robot dog.
That robot dog.
Yo, robot dog?
Taking a look at spending about $300,000 and to use in situations like this. And I'm just, just kind of remembering that occurred just a couple days ago. I don't think that was a go with city council members necessarily.
So they refunded the police over there?
Talked about, and we're almost seeing a place where it could be used in a situation like this.
Yeah, and it's incredible the resources they have and which they deploy. As Mike was referring to, there's like a robot that they stick out there, and it has a speaker on it, and they can actually communicate with the suspect with that little speaker on that little robot, so that they do not put their officers in harm's way. Again, we're talking about a suspect who has shot at 3 officers today, was even shooting after these officers were pulled pulled out of harm's way, apparently was still shooting. And, it could have been anyone who was injured, someone walking down the street, someone who was there in the area. But as we were talking about, it's a good thing that the officers had the perimeter in this area first before anything even happened. So I just want to, as we wait for what is happening with the SWAT operation here, Mike is at the desk with an update for us.
Right, so we were just kind of editorially discussing here, and we're starting to see SWAT team really kind of get involved in this. And I know Desmond's listening to me as well. So we want to make sure that we're careful not to give away any tactical positions and things like that.
Oh, they could be watching.
From time to time, we may ask Sky Cal to stay a little bit wider, not show specific things. So if you see that, or you wonder why we're not, kind of right on top of the action here, so to speak, it's because we don't ever want to be in a situation where we're giving away tactical, tactical advantages to a person, who might be watching. So that's kind of what we're discussing right now. We're still working some sources to, get some more information about who this person was. We know he was a person that was known to police, what they call a Code 6 Charles suspect, which is a person with some sort of felony want. So what that felony want was, we're still working to gather right now.
Yeah, you're just curious what that was, right? How heinous was that offense? That this person is going as far as shooting at officers and injuring them, and we're just getting word again from County USC tonight, unofficial word from an officer on the scene there, that all 3 officers are expected to survive. So certainly good news for the LAPD tonight, along with their families as well, who I'm sure were waiting anxiously for some sort of word about their loved ones. But it looks like there is some activity happening.
It looks like somebody in a hoodie is being removed from a home. Let's go to Desmond Shaw. Des, are they just getting people away from maybe an area that might be dangerous?
I believe so. That appears to be so.
This
looks to be an elderly gentleman right here you see with a walker. So it's unclear. Maybe this person may have called the police. They may have a medical condition or something like this. But it looks to be a vulnerable citizen here who is very, very close. Just extremely unlucky to where all of this is taking place right now. So it looks like they are getting them out. We had heard our Leslie Marine saying earlier how they were telling everyone to shelter in place. So we'll see if this is an exception to that, or if they're going to try to evacuate some of the other people in this area, or continue to have them shelter in place.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at that
like
after the Dallas SWAT.
Gentleman right here and this younger person who is with him, they are trying to safely get them away from all this activity.
Very good idea. A number of police officers there, so a lot of officers able to help out that resident, get them out of their homes of this situation. Let's go back down to Leslie Marin. She's been down on the ground. And remember, Leslie, just not that long ago, we took you live and you were able to bring us that audio from the law enforcement helicopter overhead that was telling people to lock their doors and stay inside.
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. They were telling people to lock their doors, stay inside. We are on mission, and we were near Broadway here, but they actually pushed us back a few moments ago. We're now near Baldwin and Mission. LAPD officers telling us they just plan to bring in more equipment as they continue to navigate this situation. As you guys have said, they are slow and methodical, especially because this suspect is so dangerous. I just want to get out of the way just to show you the scope of this scene. You can see we're pretty far back now from Broadway and Mission. That is where you...
Yeah, they push people way back. I wonder what the reaction would be if these guys see the robot rolling up. Trying to see what other angles they got. So the NBC zoomed out. ABC has kind of a zoomed in. I guess they're all kind of trying not to show. Oh, there we go. We're back to it.
We did hear from the loudspeaker for residents to lock their doors.
It's just struggle. What's wrong with the robot?
Inside as LAPD tries to navigate this situation. Take a look. You can see
he ran into the wheel.
Another SWAT vehicle, another Bearcat making its way over here. This is now the third we have seen come down here, and an ambulance as well. Another ambulance coming through this area. You can tell the situation just very active. Again, telling residents just to stay inside. And I will tell you, residents seem to be paying attention because we have not seen a single person walking through this area. There are a few homes here. Up a hill, there's actually a few apartments. But as you see there, a photographer is zooming up on just how low that LAPD helicopter is flying right now. Very active scene out here. And I can tell you, we spoke to a PIO. He didn't have much information, just telling us they do plan to hold a press conference at the Lincoln Park Recreation Center right now. He says the information is just overflowing. There's so many moving parts. He couldn't give us confirmation to anything aside from the fact that this is a large police presence, a large operation, bringing in now 3 SWAT vehicles, several ambulances, just to stand by here as they try to get this suspect out. I will tell you, I am seeing a few people at this apartment building here now looking out their windows, of course, wondering what is going on. Many people, you know, this is happening right outside their building, and they heard the loudspeakers while telling them to stay inside, lock their doors. So you can imagine this entire community right now on lockdown by LAPD. Jeff, Susie.
And that's our Leslie Marin live there on the ground in Lincoln Heights tonight. This might be a good time just to bring viewers up to speed on what has transpired here in East LA this afternoon and into this evening and tonight.
So they're using a little robot
this
to...
afternoon, the members of the LAPD's Metropolitan Division went to this area along Broadway and Mission and were serving some sort of perhaps a warrant. They were looking for a suspect with a warrant out, with a felony warrant out. And when they got there, there was some sort of operation that was supposed to be happening. They had a perimeter around the area, as they will do often in these operations. And when they did that, something happened. Something went awry and shots were fired. We don't know if officers fired back at the suspect, but we do know that the suspect did shoot 3 officers, including 1 canine officer, and we're just learning tonight from an unofficial source, actually an unofficial source from the LAPD, that all 3 officers who were shot on scene in East LA this afternoon are expected to survive. And I'm just getting a tip from another source that they are in stable condition tonight at County USC. And I'm also getting word that the LA County Sheriff's Department is also assisting in these efforts tonight. But what happened was, at some point during that operation, as we were talking about, the suspect that we're talking about with the felony warrant out shot at officers, hit all 3 officers, and they were actually pulled from the line of fire, pulled away from that scene, and the suspect got away and holed up inside one of these buildings that we're focusing on right now. We do believe it's the building on the left side of your screen, as officers have been focusing their attention on that area. But as far as we know tonight, all 3 officers in stable condition are expected to survive. And we know that the suspect is still barricaded inside this house right now.
Is that coming from the robot?
SWAT arriving just about 20 minutes ago or so on scene. And now they will be conducting their operation. Obviously, that could take up to hours, as Desmond was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have team coverage tonight. Leslie Marin, just to give you a report just a few seconds ago. Let's go to Tom Wade, who is at USC County.
I wonder if the robot's talking to them too. Can they talk?
We're taken. He joins us now. Tom, you had some really good news earlier about your source had said that these officers should be okay. Any additional information for us tonight?
Well, right now, what I can tell you is they are trying to assemble as much information as they can, and I have been chatting with the couple of officers that are here on the scene, and as I said, one of them did tell me this very good news that it appears that the officers involved here should be okay. All 3 of them, I have confirmed, are here at the hospital. 2 of them were told possibly transported by LAPD cruiser, and one of them in an ambulance. It does appear, again, as we were talking about, you know, having covered many of these horrific situations before, that the demeanor of the officers matches the information that we're being given, that there is not a frantic scene here. There is not a huge procession of police cars and cruisers lining up. There is not a massive response to the hospital, which typically happens when an officer is in grave condition or does not survive. That is typically what we see in these situations. Here is a much more calm and collected scene. It is not a scene where you have a ton of emotion even. There's not a lot of traffic coming through. There are some sheriff's deputies from the LA County Sheriff's Department here. That could be just because of, the general situation that is unfolding here, or the routine as well. So in other words, we're looking forward to a possibly positive outcome. I know, Susie, I just heard you talking about hearing from a source as well, who also says that they understand that the officers are in stable condition. So it sounds like we've got some good news rolling in here. Certainly not great news. Obviously, these people are still in the hospital. They were still shot. It's a horrible situation, but we're just so glad that we're hearing some positive information. We just want to get that official word from the LAPD. And we've been told several times that they are here on the scene gathering information. But, I'm sure you can just see from these pictures, this is a very different scene than if we had 3 officers whose injuries were worse, or, even worse than bad. So back to you.
Certainly is good news as we continue to follow this breaking news.
This guy's gonna shoot
3
himself.
officers shot. The suspect is barricaded. That is really what is happening at this point in time. You see the middle part of your screen there. We believe that's where the suspect is, who shot 3 officers earlier tonight. We do not know exactly who the suspect is or the want for that suspect. We know that he was at some point in time engaged with the Metro Division and those K-9 officers. We do think that there might be a press conference from LAPD. When they have that, we will bring that to you live here on KCAL News as we continue to follow this. By the way, we should mention there's a citywide tactical alert going on right now, and that means that those officers must remain on duty. Many of those officers here at this scene. This is going to be in Lincoln Heights on Mission and North Broadway. A very large response, a very large area blocked off away from traffic as they continue logistically to get SWAT team members in place. We see a number of officers here that we've seen before in the staging area. Really dozens and dozens of officers, Susie, as we take a live look here. And I think we should probably go up to Desmond Shaw. It's been a while, Des. Do you have any more news for us?
Well, I just noticed that the robot there that Mike was talking about earlier is now out and in the alleyway. So we'll show you what we were looking at there with the robot sitting right in here. So
I wonder
it's
what the
been
robot
at
does.
this post for quite some time, and
Just
it hasn't
watching?
been doing anything. Here it is in the center of the screen. I can show, kind of put a little box around it here, right here with my map tracker tool. So there it is. And this robot has an arm on it, and it can be used to potentially communicate with this. I'm sure it has a speaker that they can communicate directly. They can hand a cell phone to the suspect if need be. We've seen them use it to hand bottles of water to a suspect to try to kind of defuse situations. It's unclear what it's doing right now, if it's just kind of doing a little bit more reconnaissance really close by. But the fact that they have the robot right there, and this was the building where we initially thought the suspect was, tells me that, and this is also where they have 2 of the 3 Bearcats posted now on both sides of the alley, tells me that they are very confident that this is indeed where the suspect is, and that everything that we're seeing over on Broadway is primarily just to make sure that this area is completely sealed off if that suspect were to try to get out of that building, run across this parking lot and down onto Broadway. So it looks like that's how it stands
Don't
right
shoot
now.
R2D2.
We haven't seen any movement from this robot in at least the last 5 minutes or so, Jeff and Susie.
All right, Desmond. And Mike with an update now from the desk.
And Susie and Desmond, we believe that the reason that robot hasn't moved is we believe they have eyes on the suspect. From that vantage point of the robot. Some initial information, they're still, going to work to make sure this is the case, is that the suspect might be down. So, that was obviously a possibility going into this. If there was a gunfight between officers and the suspect very well could have been injured in all of this and ran hunkered down where he was. And then this is where we're at right now. And I want, for some context here, this alley that Desmond's focusing on, when we went back and listened to the original kind of radio traffic for all of this alley was the last place they had seen him running. And so the airship came up and was asking, the officers on the ground all kinds of questions. The officers said this is the last spot that they had him at. So that kind of, jives with everything that we're going on. And, now this robot, again, with the camera capabilities, may have eyes on the suspect, and that suspect might be down from the vantage point of that robot. So obviously they'll need to verify that and at some point move in. But, the initial information that they may be seeing from this robot is that the suspect is near here. and potentially down from some sort of injury.
And potentially, Mike. And so, of course, there's the possibility that he's not. And so, obviously, this huge police presence tonight, maybe speaking volumes about, how unstable and how dangerous this situation still is. How fluid it is.
And we may see them, sit here for some period of time to keep their eyes on him, because at some point, if he's down or not, they're going to have to make a move to go in there. And they're gonna, they're in no hurry. If they've got eyes on him and he's not, moving around or doing anything, there is no rush here to sit and just kind of monitor the situation and make sure it is what it is before they make any moves.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a source that has some new information that I could put out here tonight here on KCAL News. 3 Metro K9 officers shot. All 3, my source tells me, is in stable condition. Narco unit was conducting surveillance on an extortion suspect, they say. They say those 3 officers, as I mentioned, are going to be in stable condition.
Is that him?
Source says 1 was shot in the arm, 1 in the leg, and 1 in the stomach. Again, good news to hear that those police officers are in stable condition, and what a source to Tom Waite said earlier, should be okay. Such good news.
What's the robot doing?
That is the situation as we continue to follow this outstanding suspect, if you will, the person that remains holed up. We haven't heard anything from that person. We don't know if he's alive in that or not. Obviously has a gun. We've done stories on these standoffs before where they've taken their own life. We don't know if that's the situation here. We don't. If he's holed up, then officers are going to have to get to him, of course, and get him out of this garage area.
Anthony, what's up, bro?
Focused in the middle part of your screen, but there's all kinds of scenarios tonight that could occur and that may have already occurred that we're just not aware of at this point.
SWAT arriving at about 7:50 this evening here on scene, and as you can see, they've since deployed that.
I was wondering if that was intentional what the robot just did. He turned directly to this thing here and like ran into it. I mean, it looks like a column kind of, but then is there something on the ground too?
Be actually seeing the suspect with this robot. Whether that suspect is down, we don't know, or they're injured maybe at, maybe during the shooting. We don't know if officers were able to return any fire. It's unclear right now, but we do know that this is where it all transpired this afternoon, where the shooting happened, in this alleyway here that we're looking at.
Let's go back up to Desmond Shaw. We know that we're waiting for those resources to get there. We saw the SWAT team. Let's talk a little bit about the lag time in between, Daz. You've covered these a lot. You think they're just tactically trying to come up with a plan here and a mission and logistically trying to work some things out?
A dog was never shot.
Absolutely.
It was a K9 officer.
And, now it's going to be a completely different type of plan now if that robot does indeed have eyes on this suspect, and they believe that this suspect is is injured one way or another at the very least, if not worse. I mean, they're probably going to try to continue to talk with the suspect, see if wondering if they might be able to get him to surrender his weapon or something like that. It's going to put them in a very difficult spot for them to go rush in and try to attend to this person if they've been shot or something, if this person is still armed. So definitely it definitely changes the tactic of however they're going to approach this, but again, it may not be that they're going to be moving in immediately necessarily.
Well, the good news tonight, one of the good points that we were talking about is the fact that the hospital, County USC Hospital, is really close to the scene, less than a mile away, as Desmond was talking about. Let's go back there to Tom Waite. They're live on the ground at County USC for an update from the hospital. Tom?
And good evening to you once again, Susie. Well, the good news, as we've been telling you, is that we have been told here by a source who's not authorized yet to go on camera that the officers involved in this horrible shooting and who were shot should survive. So that's the good news. And obviously, you've been reporting that from sources that you have as well. Take a live look. This is at one of the entrances here to the hospital. And we have seen, obviously, a lot of activity coming in and out, officers from the LAPD and other agencies as well. But as we've been reporting as well, the good news is it's not the kind of activity that we've seen in situations where an officer's injuries were more grave, more serious. I did see some city leadership here, so it's unclear what that will lead to, meaning that it was some city officials. So I'm not sure if we're going to see some higher level leadership possibly coming to the hospital. That remains to be seen. But certainly when you have 3 officers shot, you would assume that a lot of leadership will be coming here to make sure that these officers are okay. We are, of course, waiting to find out more about who these officers are and how much experience they had and really how this all unfolded. Again, though, I can tell you from the demeanor of the people that I'm seeing talking and interacting with each other that it's not the kind of behavior that would be consistent with serious or more grave injuries, and basing that also on what I'm being told by an officer here on the scene. We were here not too long ago for another horrible situation. It was a much different scene. There was a procession.
So just a mini recap, and thanks SFV Scanner for posting this. Around 6:35 p.m., 3 officers shot, Prince and Broadway, Hollenbeck. 2 officers transferred by LAPD vehicles, 1 officer transferred by ambulance. 2 LAPD officers, helicopters set up a tight and wide perimeter, citywide attack alert, SWAT called in, officers expected to survive.
That there isn't a lot of anxiety
what was
and
the
nerves. You
extortion
can see
thing?
still here some officers coming in right now on the scene, trying to get more information. This also could be just in the normal course of business here at this hospital. We are at County USC, so it's a busy scene here with a lot of activity back and forth. The major hospital here, obviously, in the city of Los Angeles. But just sort of rounding out what we've been reporting, certainly. We'll get back to you with more. They have been telling us repeatedly that they're prepping a captain or someone in the higher ranks to come down here and speak with us, and that way we can relay more information to you. But for now, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much. It's always good to get that new information from you at USC County Hospital. As we understand, those officers, they are not in grave condition. They're in condition stable. As we understand, it should be okay, and that they will survive. So very good news. But Leslie Medina has been on the ground with us as well. I'd like to be able to get to Leslie if we can, because we still have, Susie, this active situation of this holdup suspect. We understand a suspect wanted for extortion. So if we can get to Leslie, I'd love to get the latest from you. Leslie?
Jeff, as you're saying, yeah, this situation's still very tense.
Okay, you guys in the chat, thank you, Flossie, for telling me that. ABC 7's has an interesting angle. But they don't have any audio, so what I'll do is I'll play the audio from here. I mean, we don't really need audio, but well, let's just look at this for a second first. I think I am going to play some of the audio, but this is an interesting angle to see here. And it looks like there's something open, right? Some sort of structure, maybe?
Continuing to monitor this search, this
That'd
suspect
like
search here in Lincoln Heights. Again, LAPD said to have the suspect surrounded in this vicinity here. Unclear if he's in that building there or in a nearby structure, but this is where they are focusing their attention. A SWAT team robot is in that alleyway, as you can see right there. Again, it appears they have managed to zero in on the suspect and involved in a major shootout with LAPD earlier this evening.
Nice.
At around 6:30 this evening, again to recap, 3 LAPD officers shot and rushed to County USC, where they are now in stable condition. They are being treated there. There is a large scene there as law enforcement begins to descend on that emergency room. In the meantime, Lincoln Heights at Broadway and Mission is now on lockdown. Residents along Broadway being asked to shelter in place and lock their doors as the LAPD SWAT team continues their business of trying to bring this suspect into custody. Again, it appears they are making pretty good progress here just off of Prince Street and Duke.
So I wonder, when this robot like pulled up here, it almost looked like it hit against this column thing, but then just like there's something there also. And I couldn't tell, I wasn't sure if the robot's focusing what's on the ground or is it just positioning itself to like look inside? Because I don't know where the camera's actually at. Because at first it pulled up around here and then it was looking like over here. But I mean, it was facing this way. I don't know if that's actually where it was looking. And then turned around, came back over here, almost like bumped into this thing. Thanks, Perrier. We got it up now. It does look kind of creepy, huh? So let me put some of the audio from here. Oh, now they're zooming. They're trying to compete.
Into what looks to be an open door where we assume the suspect is at right now. Their condition.
That's what it is. Yeah, it looks like an open door
at this point, and it's kind of you know, what do the officers do if they're I'm sure asking this person probably to, you know, throw their gun out or something like that. Is this person capable of responding? Are they capable of doing that or walking out on their own volition? All of that is unclear at this point. Are they unconscious, or are they pretending to be unconscious? These are all different questions that the SWAT department has to ask themselves. So I'm wondering if after a certain amount of time they may even just come inside this armored vehicle to come get, you know, really close up.
Can they get the robot to
and reassess the situation? So, you know, Mike had said that it sounded like the suspect may be down at this point, and now it's just kind of not sure how to describe the situation or how exactly they're going to handle this after what happened earlier with this suspect shooting 3 officers.
Yeah, when you say the suspect is down, they still have to treat it. I mean, they have to confirm that. So in order to confirm that, Des, they got to get to him to confirm that he's dead. But in the meantime, they have to treat it as if he's alive and still armed, right?
That's right. And when we say down, that doesn't necessarily mean deceased.
Hey there,
that could just
Gabe,
mean that, you know,
I heard that.
They may be suffering a gunshot wound and, you know, seriously injured or something like that, but they could certainly still be conscious and breathing and capable of wielding a firearm. You know, that could be the situation where this person, you know, may need medical attention, but they may not be able to get it. I'm wondering if they're going to bring in, you know, a lot of times too, we see the little aerial drone come in. Actually, it looks like they're bringing in a second robot right now. Just noticed this coming into the frame here, just behind that pole.
All right, Chris Christie, this is Mark Brown here at our studios here in Glen.
We'll see how they reassess the situation now. As you can see, the 2 robots
and a backup robot
right next to each other.
If
Squad.
I'm not mistaken, Mike, you and I were talking about the different devices that SWAT brings in to respond to these types of situations where they don't want to put officers in danger, obviously, because this is a dangerous situation for officers. That second robot that they're bringing in looked like the one that we were talking about with the speaker on it.
Yeah, potentially. The other thing that, you know, could also be happening here is that one looks like it's got a little bit more of an arm on it. I'm wondering if they're going to try to maybe shoot some gas in there.
That would be dope.
Or something like that, you know, where they don't want to move the other robot because they've got eyes on them, so they don't want to bring one robot back to load it up with, you know, a piece of equipment or something and then send it back. So this second robot could be doing something like that. You're right, it could be a tool to communicate, but as we watch it kind of push forward there, it does have that arm move forward. So I'm curious to see here if this is going to be a situation where they're you know, putting something into the garage, you know, because SWAT has access to hot gas, cold gas. They have different tools there, and you know, I've never personally been, you know, hit with hot gas or cold gas.
This is kind of interesting, isn't it?
That if someone is alive and able to move and move, that they're going to really withstand.
Sure.
That's very powerful.
For how long, right?
Right. It's very powerful stuff.
That shit getting higher?
You know,
like
could be very well one of the tactics. They put something into the garage there to see if that'll, you know, get the suspect to come out.
It's going in.
If he's capable of doing that.
Yeah, it almost looks like the one on top, the robot on top of your screen, is the one that they're using to look at the suspect. That has eyes on the suspect, and then the one on the bottom is the one they're going to use to push into that area. It looks like it's going in right now, making entry. This is the first time that we're actually seeing anything or anyone, I should say, or anything making entry into this area that we believe the suspect is holed up in right now.
Right, and we'll know pretty quick if gas is their option. We'll know that pretty quickly because it will, you know, see smoke start to come out of the garage after if they shoot it in. We'll see that pretty quick.
Well, as we come up on almost 40 minutes after the top of the hour, we continue to provide breaking news coverage here on KCAL News. 3 officers shot, suspect is barricaded. We understand at Lincoln Park, just to the south of this incident, as part of Lincoln Heights, that is going to be a scene of a press conference by LAPD. And of course, when that happens, We will bring that to you live here on KCAL News. As we continue to get a little bit of information related to this incident, 3 officers shot, taken to USC County. Nearby, we understand that those officers are going to be okay per sources and stable condition. We understand that one was shot in the arm, the other in the leg, and one in the stomach.
Bro, how trippy is that? He's got to be on the live, right?
Take a look here live. This is going to be where we believe the suspect is holed up after running from police.
No way he'd just be chilling inside with that thing walking in there like that.
We understand that these
Start
the
popping
suspect
off.
here was under some sort of surveillance for extortion by this unit of canine officers out of Metro Division.
Would he try to fight with it? Would he try to wrestle it?
That was about 4:30, as you mentioned in the timeline, Susie. The shooting happened after 6, I believe.
And it's unclear exactly how that all transpired, you know, in what order, you know, who was shooting at who at first. We don't know, but we do know that the 3 officers were hit and they are going to be okay. They're expected to survive. That is the word from Tom Wade, who is on the ground at County USC tonight. We're getting that word that certainly provides, I'm sure, a huge sigh of relief for the LAPD and the officers' family members who were obviously waiting anxiously for word of what happened to the officers. But, you know, as we take a live look at the scene right now, this is hours after the fact, as Jeff was mentioning, you know, more than 4 hours after the fact that these officers, at least the 3 officers who were on scene and were shot, arrived here on scene with a unit from the LAPD's Metropolitan Division to conduct some sort of operation that has to do with this suspect that we're talking about. We don't know the suspect's condition right now, and that is kind of what we're wondering as the SWAT officers come in and conduct their operation with their robots. But Mike, you have something.
Well, I just logistically want to let you guys know.
Yeah.
I believe what we're looking at on the right here may be some video. SkyCal actually had to go and refuel. We've been over this for a significant amount of time now. So SkyCal is going to run back to Van Nuys really quick to fuel up, and we'll come back and continue to provide live pictures as we can. On the left here, those are those live pictures from Leslie Marin's camera on the ground. And I can tell you,
yeah, so they're using old footage, but we got this other one here. Keep this maximized.
A group of homes, and at some point, very recently, in the last several minutes,
This is the most current
managed
video.
to isolate the suspect, apparently in this building right here.
I wonder what's going on
Open
in there.
doorway that's kind of at the center of the picture to the left of the telephone pole there. That is where that robot, that second police robot, went into the building, and it's still in there. No lights being shown that we can tell, and the search, we don't know if the suspect is right in that part of the building, but we can guess that that robot is being used to try to determine as much information as they can in that space, in that unit. Is that an actual unit, or is that like a
It's
dwelling?
It's really hard to tell.
Some
I've got to be
California
honest.
shit.
I'm not, you know, it certainly appears that that top floor looks like maybe 2 separate family residences. However, that bottom area could be storage. It could be any number of things. Does not quite look like a residential unit, but I could be wrong. It does appear that that is indeed where he is, because moments ago we knew they were preparing to deploy something. And just about 2 minutes ago, you saw a little bit of smoke emanating from that entryway as that first robot entered the unit. So the robot is in there, 1 unit. Robot number 2 is outside there, just off to the left with that light. And then you have armored Bearcats and tactical officers on either side of this alleyway. Mark, I cannot underscore enough how much of the on-duty chunk of the Los Angeles Police Department made their way into this Hollenbeck area in the immediate moments following this shooting. There are no less than 100 officers in and around this general area executing that perimeter, an inner perimeter, an exterior perimeter for the larger area at the wider area at large. You can see they have a command post set up there just in case anything else goes sideways. They are fully capable of tracking the suspect in the event that he was able to move. But it does appear that he is now very limited in his capabilities. He is far outnumbered, and as far as we are aware, only the 1 suspect in this shooting.
All right, and this has been a citywide tactical alert that has been declared, which means everybody who's on duty stays on duty. Nobody goes home, and those who are coming on shift will continue to come on. And that will really maintain the manpower that's necessary both to deal with this incident and to patrol the rest of the city of Los Angeles, of the vast area that still needs policing and police services. So everybody's showing up at this point to deal with it. It looks like there's some movement in there. I can't quite tell. I think I see something. Is that smoke?
I
Ooh.
thought I saw that
Yeah.
too. It does look like some smoke or dust
Ooh.
being. Let's try and get a little bit closer if we can. It does look like something is emanating from that doorway. I thought it might have been movement of the robot, but it does appear some activity
Up
is
top
actually
too,
taking
I think.
place in there,
Oh, no.
and that does look like potentially smoke.
And it's
or,
getting heavier.
Or dust. It is getting a little bit heavier. You're right about that. You know, I've got to be honest. Just kind of going through the old file cabinet here. You know, I can't recall the last time they sent a robot into an open space with a suspect. You know, it's not like a robot can perform hand-to-hand contact. Those robots are not armed other than, well, they're not armed with anything other than, you know, sometimes a flashbang or tear gas or that kind of thing. And that may be what we're seeing. That may be
what we're looking at.
tear gas. That is very possible.
Get it.
Possibly what is emanating from that doorway.
Maybe they want to
Sure
see if
is a
he'll come
lot
out.
of it. It went from a very little to a whole lot in a matter of about a minute. A
Ooh,
whole lot of
is there-
that gas, and we're going to find out,
Thought I
I
saw
guess, if there's anybody in those units up above. We
Oh,
don't
there's
know
like
whether
lights or
it's,
something. What is that?
Gas or whether it's smoke from a fire. But there is a lot of this emanating from that space where the robot went in and where we can now, I guess, presume that the suspect is as well. We're going to hopefully find out soon the disposition of the suspect. And now you see it kind of dissipating a
Must
little bit.
be dead, I
Not
guess.
Not as strong as it was.
Could have even been, sometimes they will deploy a smoke grenade to obscure the vision of the suspect as well. So they've got tear gas to blind the suspect, occasionally a smoke grenade to do the
Robot's
same thing.
gone wild.
And while there was some question whether he was inside this building a few minutes ago, I think it's fair to say that is where he is now hiding out, in that first level of that building. I wish I had a view of the other side, wondering if there's any possibility of him coming out the backside, whether there's any back exits to that underside of the building there. But for now, we're going to stay on the south side here. That is an alleyway that we're looking at. So this may be may very well, it's just hard to tell. It's a unique building, but it looks like this is the front of the building in that alleyway there. In fact, it does come up as Duke Street on Sky Map here. So we're just to the east of Prince Street along Duke Street, which is essentially just an alleyway. And all of this is south and west of Broadway and Mission.
All right, this is one of the oldest parts of the city too. So some of the architecture is old. The buildings tend to be a lot closer together in some parts of the neighborhood, just because of the age. This is some of the oldest portions of the city of Los Angeles, right here in Lincoln Heights, and hence the streets that are or alleys that might have alleyways that might have names on them, and different entrances and different ways of getting into buildings. So that may be playing a part here. But you know, the more I look at this, the more it does look like it's storage. There's no windows down on that part of the building, just that one doorway. So maybe it is a storage area or a storage unit of some sort. And
yeah,
now
I kind of feel the same way, and it's also looks like it was open. So I mean, he probably, in the moments after that shooting, was just looking for any hiding spot he could find. Probably stumbled on that entryway there and found a hiding spot where they eventually were able to zero in on him. But I got to tell you, once again, there was a major search going on across this entire neighborhood and beyond in the moments after that shooting. I'm really glad that, only 2 hours approximately after that shooting took place, they are able to stand down a little bit and focus the attention of the SWAT unit on this building here. It's certainly coming as a relief to law enforcement across the city tonight.
Any idea what sort of weapon was involved? What sort of weapon the suspect was using? Has there been any chatter of that sort that you've heard?
Have not heard that at all, unfortunately. It's impressive enough that he was able to fire off enough gunfire to strike three officers, and they were able to return fire, but just the fact that he had that kind of accuracy, presumably from not too close of a range, but who knows? Really speculation on my part. We really have no idea how close they came to the suspect. But all of that is speculation, unclear what kind of a weapon was used here, Mark.
Right, and yeah, the smoke is still smoke or tear gas, whatever it might be, is dissipating quite a bit there, and it had been billowing out of there quite a bit before. Now it's not, and we are just watching to see if someone comes out, if the robot comes out, if a suspect, if this had been deployed as some sort of a
oh, they're going.
Here comes some manpower coming down the alleyway.
Must think he's
upwards
dead,
of a half a dozen to a dozen
Ooh,
tactical officers now about to breach the entryway and join that robot to see what they're working with inside. There you go.
Ooh.
Officers with their long guns drawn.
What's that guy got in his hand? What's that?
Now confident enough.
Damn, that was going deep.
That space, whatever kind of space it may be, and it looks like this is coming to something of a resolution. The timing, not a second too soon, because as we start to pull away from the scene here, Mark, we're going to start heading back for fuel in the next few seconds, but we're going to try and keep the camera on the front of this building for as long as we can to see if they exit the building with that suspect in hand here. Right now, you have a clear view of that robot. I think I counted about a dozen officers, heavily armored officers, who have now made their way into that space.
And you can tell, we read body language, right? When we're in these sort of situations, when information isn't there, we look at the posture of the officers and see what they're doing. You don't see anybody crouched in a defensive position out here. You don't see anybody even with weapons pointing at the building or anything like that among these officers that are outside. One can perhaps draw an inference from their behavior. There's a dog next to the right there. They've got a canine that's ready to be deployed if necessary. But from what we're seeing in terms of the way just that the officers are acting here, that there won't be a need for the canine, which makes us wonder about if in fact the suspect is in there, what his condition may be. And apparently he is no longer a danger based on how these officers are behaving in this moment as they are standing outside, basically right outside the door, preparing. Some of the last of them may be filing in, but as you saw, about a dozen or so police officers in SWAT, in full tactical gear, going in a stack, doing what amounts to a typical sort of an entry of a space. As they move in, one goes to one side, one goes to another side, and then they're followed by others to try to cover the room as quickly as possible and prevent further gunfire. But now it looks like there are lights being flashed from inside. We presume their flashlights are there, and they are...
Look at that, Mark.
Right.
Just as we start to pull away here, you can see this may be the corner where that shootout took place. You could see some medical material there that may have been used to treat the injured officers, but it certainly appeared to be, certainly by my eye at least, appeared to be consistent with
a shootout.
Medical treatment there.
Right.
It certainly looks like that may be where all that took place.
All right. Well, as you pull away and head to the airport to go pick up more fuel, we can tell you that we have a reporter at the scene there. We have a reporter at LA County USC Medical Center, a level 1 trauma center that is literally minutes away from the scene of the attack, where those officers were taken, and they have been undergoing medical treatment. We are assured, at least preliminarily,
any other
that they
choppers
are
out
going
there?
to be okay, which is good news, but we await word from the hospital as well as from members of the command staff of the Los Angeles Police Department, who are going to be addressing reporters very shortly, we hope. We're awaiting those press conferences. All right, and just so you know, on the left, is where the command post is at Lincoln Park. On the right is LA County USC Medical Center, the trauma.
A lot of the footages right now that I'm seeing, they're just showing old footage. Either they're showing old footage, like Fox 11 is showing old video. I mean, right now it's just the presser. They're showing this old. This is before they went in. That's Sky Fox. Okay, Cal. Let me see what they got
On ABC 7.
CBS. Yeah, go. All right, well, I got this one here then. They dipped out. Oh, did they cut the feed here too? No, they cut it.
Crosses Imperial, still doing about 75 miles per hour.
Cut it. I'm listening to it in the background. Oh, here. Wait, what the hell? Oh, that's an old chase. Oh, bruh.
That is what the sources are telling us so far. Still waiting to get that information officially confirmed, and not clear if they're going to go that much detail when they speak. Obviously, what Michael Moore just put out is important information, but not very detailed information.
And they might also want to have more information on their suspect before they say a whole heck of a lot tonight.
Right.
And we do believe the suspect went into his own home. That's the word that we have unofficially here as we await more information. So they might have good intel on who this suspect is. They might know the person's name. Do they have a criminal history? Waiting to see the status of the suspect. There's been no movement, no action, and we've just had those robots there at the suspect's.
Are they still outdated?
And this appears to be obviously the emergency entrance and exit point at County USC Medical Center, as we see individuals who are being treated being wheeled up to the hospital, the ambulances coming and going, the RAs, and of course those are all sheriff's deputies. Those are sheriff's units that are standing by at County USC Medical Center, being that this is a county medical facility here, but obviously LAPD, as you can see, those.
Hearing the suspect in custody, likely no signs of life, and FD on scanners is downsizing the incident and clearing out units.
That is protocol, and that's what we're seeing here with these pictures.
Rick, one of the women officers we just saw is Captain Kelly Muniz, and she is with LAPD Press Relations. Obviously, she is there getting more information from the hospital location. She is often one that will give the news conferences, but she is also a go-to often for the media. So to see that person right there, that is the person we often hear from as we stand by and await more information from the LAPD. I would guess getting an update on the status of the officers who are there at the hospital.
Yeah, and we are hearing from our photographer on the ground that the press conference there is expected to begin pretty soon at the hospital. So that's what they're being told on the ground there. We shall see. We've all been in a sort of holding pattern for much of the last hour, desperate for more information. That most important information, though, the chief confirming what we had heard earlier tonight, that the suspects, or the officers who were shot are all in stable condition and expected to survive. That is the best and most important news that we've heard so far tonight.
So there you see the media.
What the heck?
About people going into any kind of surgery
Bro, I thought my
or
computer.
what kind of medical care they're getting
Shut
at this
up.
moment in time. We can only wonder about their injuries. The chief, of course, saying they're in stable condition.
All right, so we're just waiting for the presser. It seems like this guy, they got him already, but let me see here. SFV, Technical Emergency Medical Service members of SWAT confirming suspect is dead with a SWAT sergeant, which they saw is dead. I guess they meant to say via. I don't know what the hell that means. WA SWAT sergeant, which they saw via robot. Self-inflicted to head. So the guy offed himself. Damn. Self-inflicted gunshot wound. Yep. Well, the good thing is these officers are in stable condition. That's what they're saying. Said Johnny 5. Johnny 5. I watched that movie before. That shit was looking crazy when that robot was going in there. That thing like extended to the top. I was like, oh shit! It was like going in there. Let me, in the meantime, I guess we'll wait for the presser. I don't know. Are we gonna wait or? Did they cut it off? Yeah, they just cut off the stream. I wonder if they just like fuck the press conference. All right, head home. Let's call it. We need this shit. Call it. Let me read this thing real quick here. I don't know. We'll see if they come back. I mean, I guess if everybody's fine, besides the guy that a nut job. This is old. This is from 2016, but this was kind of interesting. Short. Police use of robot to kill Dallas suspect unprecedented, expert says. The death of a suspect in the Dallas police shootings marks the first time U.S. police officers have used a robot to kill someone, according to Texas and national experts. Hours-long negotiations with the man broke down into exchange of gunfire, Dallas Police Chief David Brown said at the news conference Friday morning. At that point, the officers deployed a robot armed with an explosive gangster shit. We saw no other option but to use a bomb robot and place a device on its extension for it to detonate where the suspect was. The announcement left law enforcement experts nationwide searching in vain for a precedent. New America Foundation robots expert Peter W. Singer told the Associated Press that the suspect's death was the first time to his knowledge that police have used a robot to kill. Willard Oliver, a professor of criminal justice at Sam Houston State University, a former police officer and retired military member, said soldiers in Iraq had used bomb robots against combatants, but American police officers never have. Shocking, stunning, he said, of the use of the bomb robot to kill the suspect in the shooting deaths of 5. Wow. In the shooting deaths of 5 Dallas police officers, but also very innovative. So I guess in the end, impressive. Pete Blair, a professor of School of Criminal Justice at Texas State University, said he had never heard of police in Texas employing a robot that way. Blair said robots are fairly common in police departments across the country, most often used to detonate bombs or explore potential explosives. That's gangster. A bomb robot. Robot officers. Let me see if there's anything else live. I don't know if it seems like they kind of like cut everything live. Did they cut off all the channels? Let me check ABC7. Nothing there. I think that's it. All right, good night, call it. I got time for this shit. Well, they all had to like refuel and stuff. Let me see. Oh, here. There's somebody on the ground.
That they will survive, as we've been reporting from
good.
the outset that we got here. We saw the Chiefs tweet just a little while ago as well, saying that the officers are in stable condition. So very good news there as well. Obviously, we are setting up for a press conference here. It's been some smiles here in the last few minutes. I got to tell you, some of the officers, you can see the relief, just definitely breathing a sigh of relief because they know that these officers who are injured will be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up here because we need to get our camera ready for this press conference. So I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you so much, Tom. And while we're also waiting for a press conference to take place at Lincoln Park in Lincoln Heights that will explain everything that has transpired this evening. And then before we get to that, let's go to Mike Rogers at the desk.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know they just gave the official code 4 down there at the scene. So code 4 means the situation has stabled. There is no further threat. So that's where we're at right now is the code 4 has been given. So now we're going to transition from this tactical search mode to an investigatory mode to try to figure out exactly what went down here and all of this. You know, they are talking about, and LAPD is well equipped with body-worn cameras. So everything that went on today will have been captured on body-worn cameras, including the SWAT activities, including the canine officer activities. So all of that is captured on body camera, and LAPD, the city of LA rather, has a policy that, you know, after 45 days that video has to be released. So we will see that, and you know, sometimes they'll do it sooner than that, but at least, at most, within 45 days of this incident.
And this code 4 is either a suspect is in custody, the situation is stabilized, or the suspect is possibly deceased.
Yeah,
at this point.
and it's leaning more towards the latter. The information that we've been hearing and gathering is that the suspect is dead, and they're not, you know, for reference, they're not going to move that person. They're not going to pull him out. They're not going to do anything like that with him because all kinds of investigations have to go on now about, you know, how, if he is
Collecting
dead.
evidence.
Right, collecting evidence. If he's dead, how he died. Did he take his own life? Was he shot by officers? So all of that will be, you know, hours and hours and hours in the making here.
Well, you know, that neighborhood, because during this, during the few hours that we were on the air with this, I remember just in the last hour or so hearing police chopper overhead telling people to close their doors, shelter in place, basically, right? Lock their doors and their windows. And not long after that, we sort of seemed to see less activity, if you will, less frantic activity as far as the SWAT officers, the robots. They were still there assembling, but at the same time, that there wasn't a quick movement. And maybe that's when they ascertained that the suspect was down.
And that's why they brought in those robots, right? We saw 2 robots working in tandem, one that came very close, and I remember Mike saying that the other one could have been used to deploy some sort of gas to further, is that right, Mike?
And that is what they ended up doing. So they've got 2 robots. Unfortunately, SkyCal's getting fuel right now, but this is video from earlier. This robot that they're using right here with the light on it was one that they used to get eyes on the suspect. So that's got a camera on it that was able to relay it back to the SWAT truck so they could you know, see what was going on. And then they brought in a second robot that had a long arm. We watched it kind of wheel its way into the garage there, and then that's what they used for the gas.
And let's just say that this perimeter, whether it's both the smaller and the large one, still going to be in effect probably throughout the night because they have so much investigatory work to do in gathering evidence and what have you. So it's not as if this neighborhood is just going to be open up back now, even though a code 4 has been called.
Right, and I would suspect that we'll see this perimeter be intact here until tomorrow morning. I mean, you've got, you know, obviously he shot at them. There's a possibility that they shot back. So you've got a use of force investigation. You've got just a general shooting investigation, the whole investigation that even brought them here to begin with. So they've got a lot of different things that they've got to look at, and that's going to be, you know, happening throughout the night. And, you know, I just want to point out really quick, we had talked about the dangers that officers face. As we're talking about this, the sheriff's department is actually in pursuit of a suspect wanted for assault with an officer.
All right, Mike, we're going to go to Tom Wade now because this press conference at USC is about to begin.
Every day, the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department put themselves in harm's way. Tonight is a reminder that the danger is very real. I'm relieved and grateful that these 3 brave officers are in stable condition and are able to have a conversation with 2 of them when I checked in on them just now. I deeply appreciate their service and let them know that their city stands with them and I very much look forward to their recovery. My heart goes out to the officers' families who tonight got the phone call or the knock on the door that they dread every day that their loved ones go on duty. Just this weekend, I joined the LAPD for an event designed to take guns off of our streets. It is worth repeating that we must do much, much more to protect our officers and protect our communities. I ask all Angelenos to hold these officers and their families in their hearts tonight. Thank you.
You, Mayor?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. I'm Al Labrada, Assistant Chief of LAPD. First and foremost, on behalf of Chief Michael Moore, thank you for all the prayers and continued calls for support of the officers, the 3 officers that are now listed in stable condition. So a brief update on what occurred this afternoon. Earlier this afternoon, officers of Hollenbeck Division received a call to an area of 3800 block of Broadway. The officers responded to the area and conducted a search for investigation of a parolee at large. During the subsequent investigation, officers came across the individual who refused to comply to the commands, and a request for K-9 officers was requested from Metropolitan Division. During the subsequent search, officers encountered the individual and utilized some gas to try to get compliance from the individual. Again, the suspect refused. At one point during the search, the suspect exited and fired at the officers, wounding 3 officers who are now listed in stable condition here just behind me. Again, we're grateful for the continued calls by the community and those supporting our community. As the mayor mentioned, the tragedy of the dangers that some of these officers face is what we face today, and we're hopeful that this tragedy will not continue to repeat itself. As of 20 minutes ago, we were notified that the individual was taken into custody without further incident. We're thankful to the community that supported the large perimeter, the response to the officers, and more importantly for the patience that was demonstrated by our residents in the area. Thank you. So I won't go into details on the specific injuries.
He's
but
alive?
the officers are in stable condition. All 3 of them are speaking, and all of them have their families here as well. So I'm happy to report that they are in stable condition, and potentially they may be released, but we're still doing more evaluations. The medical staff is doing additional evaluation of the officers. Yes. That's part of the investigation. Our Force Investigation Division is here to conduct the investigation relative to an officer-involved shooting, as well as our Robbery Homicide Division, who will investigate the aspect of the crime against the officers. I don't have the details from the scene. We were dealing with the officers' families, and I know they'll be providing additional details at the scene of the tactical operation shortly as well. We do have officers that return fire, and the subject of that investigation with FID as to how many return fire, the number of rounds, is part of the investigation at this point.
Tell us about the officers, male, female, how long they've been on the force.
I don't have the details of their specific time, but they are 3 male officers, and again, we're grateful they're in stable condition at this time. They're senior officers assigned to our Metropolitan Division.
Chief, was one a K-9 officer?
All 3 of the officers are K-9 officers assigned to Metropolitan Division.
How about their dogs? Are their dogs okay?
Yes.
All of the dogs are okay?
Yes.
Oh, it better not hurt the dogs.
A parolee at large, can you elaborate on the call? Was there a search warrant out for this person?
I don't have the details of the specific information the officers received. We did receive information that they were looking for parolee at large during the initial investigation.
What can you tell us about the suspect? Age, where he from?
I don't have the details, but as soon as we're able to provide that information, we will provide it as part of the investigation.
Have you responded to that house before? Any prior calls?
Again, we don't have the details.
Yeah,
Potentially we have, but that's something that will have to be reviewed as part of the ongoing investigation.
Do you know how far from the initial call was to where he was at?
I do not know. I apologize.
Not the same location?
No.
And one officer was taken by ambulance, 2 by ground transport?
I do not know the details of the transport. I know that all 3 were brought here to County USCMC.
Can you talk a little bit about, I know that sometimes people say, these routine officer responses, nothing is routine in your guys' job. Now, obviously, this turned out to be something that was pretty extreme.
Correct. As I think I mentioned, this incident started about 3:50 this afternoon, so it shows the level of patience and more importantly, the officers taking their time to try to de-escalate this and more importantly, resolve this peacefully. And unfortunately, behavior of this individual did not result in that. A very deadly situation. We're grateful residents were not injured as part of this, and we're grateful the officers are going to be okay. Fire.
Good evening, Jacob Robbie, LAFD, Captain PIO. At 6:37 p.m., the LAFD responded to the intersection requested by LAPD of North Broadway and Mission Road for a report of a shooting, with officers down and a barricaded suspect. We arrived on scene. We did find 3 officers down. The LAPD officers were assisting the other officers coming to our rescues. We had 2 paramedic ambulances on scene. There were 3 patients. 2 were taken in one ambulance. The other was taken in the other, all by LAFD, to the hospital behind you here, to the trauma center for evaluation. They were alert and oriented when we were transporting them. They are in stable condition, as everyone else mentioned at this time. And they did all have gunshot wounds. They're all suffering from various gunshot wounds. Again, had a rapid extraction, got them here, and they were talking to us. That's all I have at this time.
See if Councilman De Leon would like to say something.
First of all, I want to thank Madam Mayor Karen Bass for her leadership, for coming here to County USC Medical Center to visit and to actually speak with the 3 officers who were injured and shot by this parolee today. Today has been a very busy day for LAPD. As you may know, earlier this morning in the neighboring city of Alhambra, there was a SWAT operation where they captured the suspect who presumably had killed young Javier Chavedin, 17-year-old, last week Friday. Obviously today, Metro Division has been very, very busy. We're thrilled. We're more than happy. This happened in City 14 in Lincoln Heights, that the suspect has been apprehended. Thank God that the 3 officers are out of danger. And once again, I want to thank the men and women of LAPD, but especially Mayor Karen Bass for her strong leadership, for being here today with our officers. Thank you very much.
Mayor Bass, I missed the very beginning. I don't know if you already sent a message to the families and also to, their colleagues. What would be your message to them?
Well, I did speak with 2 of the officers. I haven't had an opportunity to speak with the families yet, but our crisis response team is here to provide the families with whatever support that they need. But my message to them is that we stand with them, is that our prayers, our hearts go out to them for their speedy recovery and also for the trauma that their families are facing right now. And we know that officers every day, when they go to work, that their families are left in fear, hoping that they won't get the phone call that these 3 families got tonight.
How do they seem to be doing emotionally in their families?
Oh, the 2 officers that I talked to are strong. Strong. The questions that they asked me was about their colleagues that were still out there looking for the suspect. So, like you would expect, they weren't concerned about themselves. They were concerned about their colleagues that they knew were still out in the field. Thank you. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that it was just important for me to be here. This is a place that's familiar to me. I used to work here in the emergency room in trauma. And so to go back to the emergency room now to try to bring comfort and support to officers was something that was very important and meaningful to me. Thank you. Thank you.
I can provide a Spanish piece if you're ready, when you're ready.
We've been listening to a press conference taking place outside USC Medical Center, and Juan, very interesting. Mayor Bass showed up. Not only did she show up, she talked to the officers, 2 of the officers, and also thanked the rest of those officers and the rest of the force for all the important work that they do. That is very, very dangerous. And she also offered support to the families. She said she didn't see the 3rd officer, but she happens to know that they're all okay. In fact, those 2 officers were asking her questions about their fellow officers out in the field.
And we also heard from Assistant Chief Al Labrada. He was bringing us up to date exactly as to what happened. He said that this suspect was taken into custody, but wouldn't really elaborate more. We did ask whether or not that person was deceased or not. But again, taken into custody, what exactly does this mean as we're trying to figure out more? But he did say that this all started in the 3800 block of Broadway. They were searching for
I'm not sure why that has to be a mystery. Like, why is there always some mystery to this shit? It should be that should be one of like the more basic bits of information they have, whether the guy's alive or dead. But I guess it has to be left in this fucking cliffhanging mystery to God knows when, tomorrow or sometime. I don't know. A lot of people online or on Twitter believe the guy's dead, which would make sense. But the way this guy was talking, it's like confusing. Supposedly on the scanners, Tactical EMS has announced the suspect deceased. This was like 18 minutes ago, so I don't know.
You know, I have other questions too, as to where this happened, because I remember looking during our coverage, there was a gentleman in a wheelchair. Oh, he had a walker. I'm sorry. There was a gentleman in a walker who was being let out of one of those homes. I wonder if that was the home adjacent to that.
Jack Killian said that the suspect that killed himself, per LAPD radio, he's a known gang member. I don't know. I don't know what's what. I guess we'll see tomorrow or whenever. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight. I appreciate it. I'm glad nobody besides the suspect is dead. They didn't actually get to kill anybody. So that's good. Mama Ford, thank you for the super chat. Says, love you, Mel. Thank you for covering this. Amazing. Thank you for the super chats. Melissa, thank you for the super chats and gifting the memberships. That's a shame. Thank you for gifting. I'm sorry, the super chat. Y'all laughing at Robo Dog. Obviously, haven't seen the videos.
And then this is the other street. So when we watched that person get evacuated from that home, that was this home right here at the corner of Prince and Broadway. And then where the suspect was inside was this building right here. Oh, it's going to make me go to street level here. But this building right here is where the suspect was in the garage down here on this lower level of this apartment building. So the person they pulled out was here. And then we believe where they requested the ambulances for was here at Prince and Broadway.
And quite a distance, too. Mike, was this just a random garage as far as we know? The suspect just ran into this area?
Yeah, so I had listened originally, and when the officers were originally chasing him, they put themselves what they call Code 6 at Broadway and Mission. This is
Yeah, I'm going to head out of here. Make sure you guys check out Swag It. Friday, we're doing a Swag It giveaway and having a fun stream. I forgot what time it's scheduled for. It might stay at that time. I don't know if I'll have to adjust it, but Friday evening we'll do that. We'll have that fun stream and do a giveaway. And I gotta do prep for that. Ellen, thank you for the 2-month membership. Amazing. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate that. Anna, thank you for the super chat. And Bob Piffle, thank you for the super chat. Says congrats on the successful move and back at the helm. Yeah. All right, you guys, man. Good night. Get some rest. Hopefully that's it for tonight. Who knows? Maybe we'll get another chase or something. Maybe, who knows? We could come back, but that should be it.